We are live.
All right. Woo, first episode of Struggle Bus. Hi everybody. Welcome aboard the Struggle Bus, a place where we can shake off our daily stresses and talk TTRPGs. I'm your resident nerd on wheels, Mary, and today we're talking about session 0. Super excited to be starting out. This show is going to be all things TTRPG. We'll be doing some fun, different like Reddit stories and thing intermixed. But first off, what I wanted to talk about today is our game of the week. So I've been scouring Kickstarter and all kinds of things, and I think I found one that everyone here would definitely want to play. It's called Obscure, and it's by Tommy Sunzenauer. It's inspired by the Blair Witch Project, Outlast, and VHS. It is a found footage horror TTRPG made for one location horror one shots and campaigns. Player characters are not heroes, but everyday people caught up in horrifying situations where death is around every corner. If you like story based games, quick character creation, and easy to learn rules, head on over to their Kickstarter, and I'll post the link in a minute. It's a fully funded game, and they've already had 2 successful Kickstarters, so chances are it's going to come out. It looks really, really, really cool. I will post the link real quick. But it actually uses a D6 pool system where you kind of barter your energy points to kind of survive through the night. They've got 3 scenarios currently, as well as pre-written characters. Character creation takes about they only said takes few minutes, and let me double check. They are currently just have rules for a one-shot system, but through the Kickstarter, they're planning on expanding that so you can have survival horror campaigns through it. The trailer they have for it, the best kind of spooky. Go check it out. If you have the funds, go support it. It looks crazy. I love anything Blair Witch or any type of found footage, and it really, looking at some of the pictures that they have posted of what the different spreads of the book might look like, it definitely gives that eerie feel. And of course, one of the options that you can equip your character with is a low battery camera or a low battery cell phone. So
Nice.
Nice.
looks really cool. So I guess I kind of did things a little bit out of order, but I think just let's go around and kind of introduce
I
ourselves.
was
Like,
waiting till you were
what?
done to be like, we should maybe do introductions.
Yeah, I know, right? See, this is
Oh, it's
why
fine.
I didn't have it written out in my plan, and why the plan is so important for Mary to function correctly. The zeros and ones were not input in the correct order.
You're fine.
But let's go around real quick. Uh, we're gonna start with Bobby.
Let's just edit that out. Everybody, I'm Bobby, typically known as GM Bobby, and normally I run all of the. Why are you laughing, Moss?
We'll just edit that out.
We'll just edit that out. Live show. But hey, everybody, I'm Bobby, typically known as DM Bobby. I run 2000 Tales, which is the channel or the Twitch channel or YouTube channel you're checking this out on because we're on both. I basically head up this end of things, and I also run our Friday show, which is Sigil and Shadow Charm City, which is now just on Twitch live, and then next day on YouTube, because come to Twitch, spend bits and stuff and interact so we can fund the show. Because, yeah.
Give us your money.
Please.
Please.
Let's next go to Nikki.
Hi, I'm Nikki, aka Beholder to No One. I am retired podcaster, kind of, sort of, not really, who's starting a network and hasn't worked on that either.
They like that sometimes.
Other than that, I play in all the games on this show because I have an obsession. That's all I got.
Valid. Ashton.
What is going on, Powerbombs? Welcome back to my Minecraft Let's Play. I have ABS, and that's okay. Today I'm Ashton, and I'm just here to have a good time and to, yeah, that's it.
Valid. Ashton.
What is going on, Powerbombs? Welcome back to my Minecraft Let's Play. I have ABS, and that's okay. Today I'm Ashton, and I'm just here to have a good time and to, yeah, that's it. What is going on, Powerbombs? Welcome back to my Minecraft Let's Play. I have ABS, and that's okay. Today I'm Ashton, and I'm just here to have a good time and to, yeah, that's it. That's really it.
That's valid. Good times are
Ashton, you
valid.
are the personification of here for a good time, not a long time.
I really am, dude. The amount of charged lemonade that I drink is insane.
Next up, we've got Moss.
Hi, I'm Moss. I exist here now. This is my child. His name's Esteban. Ashton knows the full name.
Esteban Julio Ricardo Montoya de la Rosa Ramirez.
That one.
Yeah.
My brain can't remember that many words in one go without practice. I did logos and stuff. And I'm also on that Friday show. You should watch it. Okay, bye.
And that's the end of the show, guys. Bye.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
And then I am Mary, also known as the Nerd on Wheels. I do TTRPG actual plays and podcasts and voice acting, and I exist here a lot, and it's fun, and you should join us. It's a great time. Tonight we are going to be talking about Session Zero. All of us being a huge fan of TTRPGs, some of us GMs, some of us played in a bunch of stuff. Session Zero is one of those things that is like important and vital, but it's something that we always throw out the name Session Zero and not necessarily what it means. So I'd like to know from you guys, what is a Session Zero? Like, if you had to put a definition on it, what is a Session Zero to you?
How long can this definition be?
The session before
This
one.
session-
A tool used to assist. I'm going to go with the actual answer. A tool used to assist with making your table fun and safe.
It's that meeting you have before you actually play the game, where you talk about stuff you want to see in the game, safety stuff, and also like sometimes you make up your characters in there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have expectations set. Sometimes you go in there. You don't know.
Yeah, it's
Pre-game.
it's pre-production. Realistically.
You know, sometimes you have a shot of vodka before you go to the club.
It's basically the game plan before you go out the night of what you're gonna do and how you're safely gonna do it. But in TTRPG terms, very vital, something that like we've talked about is just like parts of like talk about safety in our games, what is expected, as well as like I'm gonna go a little nerdy here, and it's basically setting up the social contract between your gaming group of what expectations on a social level are you expecting out of the game. Like, everyone should respect each other. Everyone is coming to have fun. We don't put other people down. Like, it's very much social contracts are important, and it's something we don't talk about enough. And it's very important in TTRPGs because a lot of times when you are playing TTRPGs, you can do characters and storylines that are really close to home, and having a safe place of predetermined rules and things like that makes that so much easier and more fun, because the goal of TTRPGs is to have fun, or else why are you doing it? It's a real question.
To go through my trauma.
That too. TTRPGs are a great way to work through trauma.
I've met at least 2 people that go through it to cause trauma.
I
Well,
feel
that's
like
why you
every
keep
single
playing.
person has known those people.
Yeah.
You have to keep playing to then cure the trauma that it caused.
Yeah. That's
I would
how
like to
found you guys.
apologize to everyone here.
For causing some of that trauma.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think you've caused any trauma.
You haven't been in that many
Game-wise.
games yet, Moss.
Yeah, yes. 100%.
I don't think I
I'm
have
dead.
I?
Not for me, at least.
I enjoyed every second of it, but traumatic as fuck.
Yeah, I don't think I've experienced. Like,
Then
a lot of
again,
trauma.
No.
I forgot about the Fae King that was gonna kill Lore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was
No,
getting
no, I haven't-
hunted by the wild hunt. It was fun.
Other than dealing with Ashton's fear of commitment in games, I haven't been that mean to Ashton
Hello?
because
That
oh,
is
like you
not
don't
real.
know. Oh, like oh yeah. That's not what the entire Sam character was about.
Anyways,
I mean, I was gonna say it's because I've gone easy on you after I psychoanalyzed you and broke you, but yeah.
I guess it didn't go easy enough because
Yeah, apparently I need to ratchet it up on Ashton.
oh boy. All right. Moving on. Going into session zeros, like it kind of can depend on the game that you're doing, but I'd like to know because we have some people, like we've got GMs, we've got players here. When you are going into a session zero, what is it that you prepare for? Like, is there anything that you do? I think a lot of this, there's more. Not necessarily more, but there's different aspects that each group does going in, and I'd like to know, like, from your perspective, what do you do as far as a GM or player? What is it you prepare when you go into a session zero?
want to go first.
I was gonna
Bobby?
say, is this like everybody takes their turn situation?
Yeah, everyone can pitch in when you want.
Yeah. So
I can start off if you need some time to figure.
oh no,
figure out
mine's
things, but
mine's easy. Honestly, because I have you guys. I don't know if Moss has done it, but you guys have everyone else here has done it where I have my questions. I have a list of like 80 questions that I have the players like round robin answer. And then there's certain questions everybody answers and everything. I also let them know like if there's any lines or veils or stuff they have, they can tell me and they can tell me privately and everything. Which I do get in a discussion of session zero is the stuff we're typically going to be saying, but I also didn't even think to say it at first because it's just like, yeah. But the big one is I made those questions based off of a random setting generator. I then like took out all the random fills and made a questionnaire instead. And that's built most of my game worlds now too. Because I've also found that if the players are part of building the game world, they're way more invested from the get-go.
Mhm.
I also let you guys name villains and then make you feel like you're at fault for that villain showing up in game. And Yeah, I'm
That's
done.
why you let us do it.
yes, that's exactly why I do it.
For me, all my session zeros always include the rules of the table, the lines and veils, of course. So, like what people don't want to see, but they do want to see, as well as how the game mechanics are going to work, especially any special rules that I'm using, because I can never just be like, we're doing this the normal way, because that's boring. And then we'll do character creation and world building and ensure people have connections in game and just like ground rules as well. A lot of ground rules because I'm like, I did a lot of games with basically strangers. So I was like, no, these are the rules. If you break them, you're out. I don't care. If you make somebody else uncomfortable, you're the fuck out. Get the fuck off of my channel. Get the fuck out of my game.
Absolutely valid. I guess from a player perspective, Ashton, as far as like coming up with characters or things like that, is there like, do you have any like rituals before session zero or things that you like to do before?
Well, it depends on the game. If it's a game I'm familiar with, I'm comfortable going in and like testing out the vibes of everyone and then kind of coming up with a character in the moment. If it's something that I'm not familiar with, I'm gonna skim over the book first. And like I'll come up with like a few basic ideas for a character, just so that I can have like I can like feel what everyone else is feeling. Really, like I don't know, like character wise, if I'm gonna make a character, like I want it to fit in with everyone else most of the time. Sometimes that's successful.
Kermit
and
Mustard
I was
Gonzo.
like,
Can we
I'm
not say
fighting
the
from
name?
saying Kermit Mustard Gonzo after every
Can we not
single
say the
thing
name?
Ashton says.
Well, but here's the thing. I wasn't there for that first episode because
No.
That is
I
the
had
point. That
I had
is
a mental
true.
breakdown, and so
Yeah.
like that character came in. I hadn't seen the episode before. I had no idea what everyone's character was. So like that character also just like didn't mesh at all.
Yeah, you missed session 0, and like because of personal stuff going on, we didn't really get the gay
Yeah.
thing. So we inadvertently had a perfect example of what happens when you're not part of session 0 with Kermit Mustard
Yeah.
Gonzo.
Yeah, because I still think, like I've said, like Kermit Mustard Gonzo was originally supposed to be like just the character that just comes in and just like is like basically like the perfect character that doesn't really do anything, like does stuff, but like is just following, like doing everything that good that everyone else is doing, and is like really not trying to fuck around. And it turned into the fuck around character. By accident, and that I do think mainly that was because I didn't get, like, there was no good foundation with like the other players, which is no one's fault. It's just I just wasn't there for session 0. So
Yeah.
What a gift we were given.
I still think that character,
The only one that
I
thinks
will
that.
find a campaign for that character and I will make you love them.
There is a world where
I
that
want to watch
character's
that.
like
I want to be in that.
This is how things lined up. It just everything was chaos. It's all good.
The other, like, there's a world where Kermit Mustard Gonzo is likable, but it is not the world of darkness.
Yeah.
It might be Die Laughing.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, yeah, it would be
Maybe,
like
yeah.
if I will say the vampire rendition of it, Die Laughing would be perfect. If it was like more of like the idea that you originally had, I think you could do
Mhm.
that in
Yeah.
World of Darkness, absolutely. But
Yeah, I do think if you were at the session 0, we would have had more discussions about like why you couldn't do certain things or why
Yeah.
what would happen.
Yeah, I didn't know
Add a
the-
character.
that was another thing, is that I had played Vampire, so I didn't feel the need to like go back and look at the rules, because I played it like once a week at that point, and it just my mental state was so wild that week that my brain just said, oh, you know exactly how this game goes, and every DM will do it the same.
Yeah.
Which is not true at all. Which I knew, but like I just.
But yeah, no.
So
There was
there were a lot of big.
the vampire
differences
game held
between-
so much
yeah.
promise, and sometimes great projects fall apart, and that was something that fell apart.
I enjoyed watching it.
I think we were able to wrap a good story with it by the end. Like the narrative of the arc for the like 6 sessions it was, but there was nowhere going with it like long term with how things had established themselves.
I enjoyed my character. She was fun.
We can have a whole
Um,
separate episode about like
We did
campaigns
a
that
whole
failed.
Episode. Honestly,
Okay,
just specifically.
hear me
for
out.
Gonzo, the episode.
Oh god.
A show that's okay. All the characters are the same, right?
Behind the dice, Kermit
But the
Mustard
tone-
Gonzo.
The tone is Friends.
Yeah.
Same characters.
Mm-hmm.
They're still vampires, but
Yeah.
it's more what we do in the shadows.
Yeah, what I would love to
Yeah.
run is like a what we do in the shadows, but what I've realized is you can force, we're getting off topic, but like you can force that in Vampire the Masquerade,
Gotta.
But Vampire the Masquerade does not want you to take it with that level of levity.
No, yeah,
Like
you
the
definitely
game
need a different
hammers
system for that.
down its like vibe, because it's not even just specifically themes and all. It is the mood of it, because VTM just has such a strong mood to the game and the world.
Absolutely. Bringing it back.
Yeah.
I, as far as prep goes, I usually, so it depends on, I think very much, I think from what we've discussed, very much I think depends on what the game is of what the prep needs done.
Mhm.
So what I'm going to prep for a one shot is very different from what I'm going to prep for a long-term game. So like for instance, if I'm doing like I've got a current Sunday game I've been running, I think for like over a year now. I think we totaled it out to. Going into that, I had a generic just world primer for like main continents, had that done. I had all my safety questions done, and then I did questions as far as getting info from my players for their backstories. But I think it really depends. Like for another game I ran, I did Outbreak Undead. There's a lot of small systems in that game that when you're just trying to read the book, they slip through the cracks. So for that, I had to create handouts for just the separate rules within the game. So it was easier to understand just going through it. Same with Scion, did the same thing. But I think it just depends on what game, how much you need to prep. Player wise, I'm very much with Ashton. I usually play fill characters. So I'll come up with a few theory characters that I can bring in and then just play off of what a group needs, because I feel like that's something that I can do very easily. As far as we've prepped for our session 0. It's time to run it. We've talked about the parts, but as far as like getting deeper into that information, what things are we wanting to make sure we hit? Like when we are running it, when we are playing it. I would say as far as like player question, what are questions that you would for sure want to ask a GM if they didn't bring up? And as a GM, what are things that are vital to bring up?
Yeah. This was actually making me think, because once Nikki was saying about their session 0 stuff, and I was like, oh, there's things I don't even think of as session 0s. I think this also this stuff for me falls into something that's actually like pre-session 0. That's like, because typically just how I get to game is I let people know when there's games and I fill my table, which is different than like getting all your friends to agree on a time. So like the basics of what game is being played, the time slot I'm able to run it, and even the stuff of like lines and veils and what safety tools we're using and all of that stuff is typically in my post, where like I cast out to see if anybody wants, like if I get enough players for this game, is cast out. So by showing up to session 0, you've already agreed to all of that.
Mm-hmm. And Bobby, you have the unique privilege of like already knowing everyone's lines and veils pretty much that comes onto your table.
I would say that's actually not too unique once you've done it for a long time, because, and this is sadly, the people who argue against lines and veils a lot of time are in this position of, once you have a long time game group, it's like, well, why do I need to do this? I know everybody. And but the thing is is also stuff like, you can say that, but realistically, Moss became an official player like 6 months ago. Like we're always bringing in new people. So I am still always checking on those things. Plus, sometimes people just, life happens and we all get scarred from it. So check-ins, which will probably be a whole later discussion in the episode.
Mhm.
I remember actually with one-
Sometimes you're not afraid of things anymore.
I remember a
Sometimes
time
Bobby's cured you.
It work honestly though, like TTRPGs working through things, like even like in an exposure therapy type thing can help you work through things, and lines and veils change all the time. Like there's certain lines and veils I used to have that I don't have today, and there's some I didn't have before that I sure as shit do now. Um but yeah, I think like there's obviously like your technical info of like when do we call a session? Like as far as if there are players here, how many players gone do we say this is end of session? We're not doing it today. We're moving forward. How long do we want our sessions to be? Those kind of like you've got your technical info, then your what I usually go over lines and veils. So I basically there's almost like two segments, at least for how I run them, is like you've got your general game info and then you've got your like deep in the actual game. So I'm gonna do like the generalities of the TTRPGs, technical info, doing lines and veils, expectations, what we want out of a game, and then I'm gonna dive into the actual campaign of it all, of like coming up with characters. As far as that goes. Is there any questions that you guys will often ask a GM during a session zero, or things like if they're not brought up that you make sure that are brought up?
I bring up if it's not brought up, I ask about cross table talk and their stance on metagaming, because like I hate metagaming personally, but I do have friends who DM for me who are super against metagaming, and their idea of metagaming at their table is a lot more strict than what it would be at like Bobby's or my table, or your table even. Like for him, it was even. So I always ask like, what are the rules of your table for that? Because for him, it was even if you reminded somebody of something they remembered, if they forgot, their character forgot. You were not allowed to remind them of it, and that was because we were supposed to be taking notes in our session, and it was a Shadowrun game that was very intense, and we went into the game knowing this.
See, I have problems with that because like not everybody has the same memory that their character does.
Oh yeah, my memory sucks ass.
Like we don't all have a 17 intelligence, you know?
My memory sucks ass, but that's why I got really good at taking notes
Yeah.
for that one game, so I could remember. But I would just say, a lot of times what I would do is say, hey, I have this note here. I don't remember if I heard it in character or if I heard it at the table. And I'll show it to him, like, did I hear this in character? Before I say anything, so I wouldn't get in trouble. And like usually he understands, but it was like one of his biggest pet peeves.
I was once this is a game, and like some of the like out of character talk was I'm gonna run a game where everybody has to prove to me that they have these stats before their character can have it. And I was just like, that is the most ableist thing I've ever heard. Like what? I mean,
Yeah, then I'm
the
never
dude
playing a
was an
barbarian ever.
aspiring prison cop though, so like
That's
par for the course.
what a choice.
An
Choices were made.
incredible choice, yeah. I left after that.
No idea why.
Oh, the session was also awful.
Sounds like it.
Mhm. To be honest, probably would not have played the game again had I not found this channel and
no.
known that there were sane people out there.
Look at us.
Yay.
That I think that's very important of how important having good tables are, or having good stories are, how you should do things
Mm-hmm.
to help when you are not at those good tables. I think like it's like there is hope. It's possible to have a good scenario. But I think talking about you were talking about how Nikki, on like the expectation that if you forget it, your character forgets it.
Mhm.
I'd like to know when you're coming to a table, what are your expectations? I would say let's first off go general expectations for any TTRPG table.
I mean, the biggest thing is respect for lines and veils.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we're gonna do lines, like, you know, which we should, we gotta like actually do them and like actually respect them.
I straight up left games because they didn't respect my lines and fails.
That's it's so crazy to me when like people will like they'll send out like a sheet and they'll be like, please mark your lines and veils so we know, and then like, you know, horrible DMs will even like use it against players.
Yeah.
13
that's-
Oh.
same DM.
Well, that explains some things.
Yeah. Which, like, also it's worth saying there's a big difference between slipping up and accidentally crossing someone's lines or veils.
Yes, absolutely.
And deliberately crossing or deliberately ignoring them,
Mhm.
because like
Mm-hmm.
I've crossed most of your guys' lines on accident at least once when we play like really intense games. Like it's happened. But the difference is when that happens, I'm like, oh my God, shit, I forgot that this was a thing,
Mhm.
and make sure everything's okay. That is not the same.
Yeah,
So-
I've accidentally done it before too. It's different when it's accident. Like the first
Oh, yeah.
1 or 2 times, it's like, hey, friendly reminder, that's a line or veil. After that, if you keep doing it, you're just being an asshole.
Especially if it's the same line or veil.
Yes,
Mhm.
mine was every single time dolls. Every time,
Yeah.
same person brought up dolls in his game every fucking time. To the point where other players at the table were X-carding for me. They're like, stop it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think too of just an expectation of definitely the respect for lines and veils. I think too, setting an expectation for what the theme of the game is. I think
Yeah.
this is very important. Like in a general
Yeah.
sense of you need to going into it, I need to know like how deep are we going into this game? Is this going to be a lighthearted game? Is this going to be something where we're dealing with difficult topics? Like just as a general info thing, like not even diving into game specific,
hmm
I need to know what I'm getting into to know whether I have the mental load to do it or not.
That's also fair. Like I've played games that were super lighthearted, and I've played games that were like dark as fuck, and I love both of them for different reasons. But I just need to be prepared for whatever I'm walking into.
Mhm.
Yeah. No,
I
definitely.
think even too of like whether you can get up from the table. Like
Yeah.
some people, they want you there all the time. Whether it's an open table where you can snack, things like that. Like just things you wouldn't necessarily think of. Like whether if you're playing in person, are cell phones allowed at the table? Are you allowed to like those kind of expectations? Because the worst thing you can have is where people think you're supposed to do X, but it's not communicated, and then it causes inter-party conflict,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
in a general sense. You were gonna say something, Bobby. I completely talked through you. I apologize.
No, it's fine. I was just gonna bring up the other, like, I'm just gonna keep pointing out the no-brainers just because sometimes they need said of like, I've also done this for like players looking to join games and everything too, is I make sure they're not a bigot. Just like, you sadly have to make sure of this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of ists they could be, so I'll just lump it to just general bigotry is gonna probably be a problem.
Yeah, I do a vibe check on people before I play with them. Like I'll have like a 15-20 minute meeting,
Yeah.
but that's not usually done at session 0. But then in session 0, we'll catch like some other red flags occasionally. It's like happened once or twice where I've kicked somebody out at a game at a session 0. And it's also, I think, a good thing to mention. Like you mentioned schedules. It's different when it's a streamed game and a home game. Because when it's a streamed game and you're like, okay, we're doing 6 sessions.
Mhm.
and these are the days. If at session 0 someone's like, oh, I'm going to be missing 4 of those, I'll be like, okay, well then why are you playing?
Yeah.
We're going to just bring in somebody else.
Mhm.
I mean, I actually,
But
since we've shifted that, have advocated for, like, in your home games, do these. Do, like, we're doing the next 6 weeks, and if people want to, pick up. But, sorry, Nikki.
No,
I know you had more.
I forgot what I was going to say. That's fine.
I think too of like diving into more game specific, something that's brought up of not whether and when you're doing like this comes up a lot in D&D, but other fantasy games, other games that do deal with different alignment type things, which alignment is going to be its own episode because there's a lot to talk about within that. But when you whether you allow evil players, like not evil players, that's Mary's brain doesn't know how to talk today. Evil characters, whether evil characters are okay. How do you deal with that? Just having that upfront at the beginning, this is my stance on it because
Yep.
I cannot tell you how many times I've played at a table where someone has gone full twirly mustache, and this is my early Roll20 days, baby Mary D&D of like just being shocked at the general jackassedness that people that go like full like chaotic neutral, but
Mm-hmm.
they're really chaotic evil. What do you allow? How much PvP is okay? As far as like inter-party conflict, like how are you going to deal with PvP? How are you dealing with? Are you having any type of romantic relationships, like being a storyline in a game? If you do that, what's your line on those storylines? Like, are you doing Fade to Black? Is it just going to be like typical like Disney rom-com level? Like, how deep are you exploring that? How people feel on character death, NPC death? Um, how do you change in, change out characters? These are all really important discussions to have at the table. So when it does come up, you've already all decided on it at the beginning of it. And if, like, let's say a character does do choices that fall within the, hey, we're not doing evil characters, or there's too much inter-party conflict that is making people uncomfortable. If you have your expectations set at the beginning of the game, it's easier to basically handle those kind of conflicts at the table where it doesn't come out of left field. It's something that's already agreed upon, and it makes it so everyone is just more comfortable in general. Setting expectations is so important um, in any kind of session 0. Um,
Agreed.
is there any kind of like when you're talking about like diving into the actual game of expectations you like to set?
I let people know the vibe, the mood, above everything else. Like, that is priority 1 with the game. Because system, well, I mean, obviously, this is the system we're playing. Again, the doesn't need said, but you'd be surprised how many people are like, I thought that was just a thing for D&D. So I brought my D&D character. I've had this happen to me multiple times for games that are not D&D and do not claim to be D&D.
Why don't you just play D&D?
That burns
though?
my soul.
Just play D&D, Bobby.
I do for money.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say you can't pay me to play D&D, because like you can, but like that's the level I'm at. Yeah, it's separate conversation or separate topic.
What was the question again?
As far as like when you're talking about like getting into the game itself, expectations you like to set as far as like game specific. So like I think this would be in line of like how are we doing character death, or like when you're getting into the nitty gritty of like not just general game expectations.
Gotcha. I tend to explain words. Words are hard. I tend to do a lot of conversations when things are happening behind the scenes, and I'll explain that in session 0. So, because it's always a case by case basis. So, like with romance, I say, "Hey, romance is allowed in my games. Death is allowed in my games. Y'all aren't allowed to be asshole bigots or anything like that." But if something happens where someone wants to like do a romance and it's an NPC or something, I will just message them in that session specifically, be like, "Hey, are you okay if I do blank?" Like they've already given me their lines and veils and said that romance is okay, but I'm still going to ask them, "Are you okay if this character makes a move on you?" So I don't just make them uncomfortable in the middle of the game. And if something bad happens to a character, then I'll be like, "Hey, just checking in, are you good?" Because like the dice
Consent
roll
is
bad
very important.
and you're
Mhm.
dying and I'm sorry, and your character's first kiss was to a succubus who almost killed you. My bad. You good? Yeah, cool. Awesome. I also will tell people that I am going to try to make them make a deal with a patron or a god of some sort if I'm running a D&D game. Like, just so you're aware, sometimes things offer you deals. You could take them. There might be consequences, maybe.
Also, like, note to DMs with the whole just message them and ask before you do that. It's really good because actually, as a DM, it lets you do way more to your players. Because if you just ask and figure out what they're okay with, you could do way weirder stuff. You can plot out things that you don't always leave to chance. You can have really cool story beats. You can completely rewrite everyone's backstory for a season.
It was rude.
I asked everyone. You guys even helped make the new backstories.
I know, and I
Yeah,
was
it was
rude to
funny.
myself. Karen hated Kay,
Okay, K Woods.
which is exactly why I made Kay.
So we've talked a lot about safety tools, and I think safety tools and their use deserves a bigger slot in an episode. But if we're talking about generalities, what, like, if you had to choose your most important safety tool, what would it be to implement?
X card, no questions asked.
Yeah, probably X card.
Yeah. Like, if I can only have one safety tool, then you almost need something that can instantly cut things if you screw up. So the X card's really great. I would follow it closely behind the ability to just directly ask players when needed, because that also covers a lot of things, but it's just not as quick of a response as the X card.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, normally you're going to use more than one safety tool. This is just for, since it deserves its own episode of what is our most important one. I think sometimes pause is a really good one to have. Like X card, I think out of all of them is ranked number 1. Even developing it into yellow X card and red X card.
Oh yeah, that's just more information. More information's better.
All of them are great. The one I found, like, and it was just more recently of pause is sometimes like when you're getting information fast or it's a really big decision, having a pause to go over what the information is very helpful and useful, especially when it comes down to like important character decisions and things like that if you're processing. There's a lot of other really great safety tools out there, as well as like how to do lines and veils, different checklists and things. We're going to do a whole episode on it because it's just that important. We've all dealt with GMs crossing lines in bad ways, not just on accident. Like I've played on Roll20. Yikes.
I mean, I
Roll20 can be a great
literally
app.
got
I'm
death
not gonna say
threats
that.
for support.
But
That means I
sorry,
get
go
to.
for it, Bobby.
Oh no, I literally got death threats for supporting safety tools with my YouTube channel. So like, the people
That's
get insane.
wild.
How
Yeah.
dare you care about your players?
Oh, I had people try to like with their whole chest defend rape. It's the trust me, there will be a lot to discuss.
Absolutely. 100%. Mental health
Horrifying.
in gaming is important, and it's important to protect your own mental health because no game is worth that.
Mm-mm.
Real quick. When do we usually go on break, Bobby?
It is Saturday or not Saturday. It is Tuesday, so 9:45.
Okay. Just double checking. I didn't
Yep.
want to go too long. So, all right. So basically, we've made it through our general information of like going over our time. We've set our expectations. This is going to be a little bit more of a, to me, it can be divisive. I'm really interested in knowing, do you prefer picking characters before session 0, so coming up with who's playing it and then like claiming it before everyone talks, or do you like waiting for it and choosing during the session 0?
I like people to have a general concept beforehand, but not necessarily have it tied down.
It depends. It really depends on the game and the group. Like it really depends on a lot of different things, to the point where like it's kind of a case by case basis. And also if it's like, if I have a fantastic idea for a character, then like that's different, and then I want to see if I can play that character.
Kermit Mustard
It's a
Gonzo.
whole thing, man. Y'all get it. Y'all that wasn't an answer, but like there's no easy way
I
to
got
answer
it.
that
I got it
question.
100%.
No, honestly, for mine, I have two answers. If I'm doing a one shot, I greatly prefer like just straight up full on pre-made characters that people pick, because like you're doing a one shot. You're doing either a specific story or you're testing the game out, something where it's just one time. Do that, maybe have something where like they can tweak things in the characters, but just get that part out of the way. But for a campaign, it's similar to Nikki. I want them to show up with concepts of what they want. Most importantly, the things they will have fun doing in game, because we can just make characters that will do the things they will have fun doing. But the actual character creation, I prefer as a group, because then we get to interweave stories and have people have connections. And you don't have to have everybody meets in a tavern bullshit. You just make characters that know each other. It's not hard.
Yeah, oh my god, why did I just blank on what I was about to say? I know in D&D, like I'll always be the player that's like, I'll fill the spot, because usually there's a bunch of new people and I've been playing for a while. So I've played almost everything already. So I'm like, I'll just play whatever, as long as I don't have to play insert a paladin or a cleric, honestly, preferably. But other than that, I'll play whatever. And I let everybody else get their first say, so that they are more likely to come back for more if they're playing the thing they want to play.
That's valid. I feel very strongly about this. This is the hill I die on almost every time.
Marry with a hill she'll die on? What?
I know, right? It's crazy. I hate it when people are spouting out, I'm playing this. Like, it is my personal pet peeve of TTRPGs. I make it a point that when I am running a game, you come up with 3 character concepts. and you don't get to say what they are until we're in session 0. You can tell me your ideas, but I don't want you guys announcing it in the Discord. I don't want that because I think sometimes, and this is just from a disability standpoint, some people are so quick to type things,
Mhm.
and then it's just my brain has a hard time reacting. So I'm constantly like, I'll be excited for a character, change it, excited, and then you just can't get it out fast enough. Whereas in a session 0, you can figure out like party composition better.
Mhm.
There's just general of whether characters are going to mix really well. Like for instance, if you come up with the gunslinger character and this is what you really want to play, but in this world there's no guns,
Yeah.
that's not going to work. Even like it just doesn't work. So I am all for not picking it before, even in one shots. Like I can understand why it happens in one shots. I still hate it when it happens in one shots. Like it's something I deal with, and I should say hate is a very strong word. I dislike it. It's just a more of a pet peeve than anything. Like I still go for it. I still think I always end up having fun, but it's just one of those things that, at least to me, you will usually, from my experience, the table runs better when everyone comes together and chooses a character, not when it's all pre-done beforehand. Building on that, uh, when you're creating backstory or when you're getting backstory, what is your favorite backstory method?
This is
Ooh.
actually really funny because I was going to say one more thing about the character creation, but it has to do with backstories too. Is I've started just the players that really, really want to show up with pre-made characters. I'll be real honest to all those players. If you want your backstory to matter and show up in game, handing me a 5-page essay on your character is not going to be as nearly as likely for me to actually use any of that as if you made your character as a group that is interconnected into the same things you know other people are interconnected into. Then your backstory will show up.
Yeah, no, that's as a player, like when coming up with a backstory and then you realize that it fits perfectly with someone else's.
Yeah.
That's the best. Because like that's one of the things where like it's going to be used and it's like an important aspect of your character, and so it gives you a much better idea of who your character is.
Mhm.
And it also lets you know a player that you can kind of like hone in on at times to have like side scenes and things, especially in bigger groups when you worry about a lot of other people playing and stuff. It also, like, for the players that like to do things outside a game, if you know both of you are part of the same faction, talk to your GM. Maybe your GM will let you guys discuss stuff about the faction outside a game, and then you get like mini games.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually sounds really fun, and I need to start like allowing that kind of stuff because
Do it.
All right, so I have an unpopular opinion.
okay.
So one, I don't let people come in with just pre-written stories. That is just my rule of, you can come up with a character that already has idea for a backstory, but if you're sending me the backstory before character creation, I'm gonna be like, oh, this is cool, but we're not deciding on the character till then. And then if it works with everything else, great, we'll work it in. Freaking love it when players give me 5-page backstories. I love it. It gives me every plot point I've ever needed. Like, I love writing plot points, but I know that character is gonna fucking love it if they spent time like in a backstory. And then for players that don't write it, one thing I do just in my session 0s is I have the first part where we go over game stuff, we go general information. Then I do one-on-ones with all my players, because that way, if it's someone that, like, let's say they're not a big writer, but they have an idea for their character and they more are like a writer's room aspect where they like to come up for it, we have a talk about that and we develop the character along with the things that I know in it Also, when I have one-on-ones, if you have a 5-page backstory and you ask them about their character, they're going to tell you the most important things about their character in a one-on-one. Then you know, okay, of this backstory, I know these are the most important points that I want to pull from that they're going to care about, because they're not going to remember who their like 32nd uncle on their mother's side is. They're going to remember the informative event that they wrote. I am all for big backstories. I love it. I write stories very much like when I run campaigns that are really based around what the characters, like their personal stories, and then I have an overarching one. But there is a lot that you can do with with big backstories that I feel like is like untapped, that I think is like really cool stuff can come from. You have some that are just like edgelord, 30 pages of being an edgelord. Yes, but I think that comes down to table curation, which can be its own thing of like how do you pick the players for your table. I hit my mic. How you pick players for your table and things like that. But yes, I love 10-page backstories. It means it shows me how like you're excited for the character, and if you are talking to me, like that is just as important. Like if you're giving me verbal information on your character, that is just as important to me as the person that wrote the 5-page backstory and things like that.
For me as a player, I need to find out who my character is as I play it. And they always change. Like Karen, for example, from Weird Web, Karen wasn't the same character at the beginning that she was at the end. There were some similarities, but she changed throughout the first couple of episodes based off how I played her. And that happens with every character I've played, because I'll start with like a concept and be like, then I'll just end up playing something different completely and be like, oh, I guess this is how the character's personality is, not the other way. But with that being said, some of my favorite characters as a DM have honestly been ones that are, I don't know. I know this information. She doesn't know the rest. You can fill in the blanks. Have fun. Because some of the crazy things that have come out of that have been phenomenal.
Yeah,
I had a friend, Ellen, who made a character named Mystery, who like literally did not remember anything about her character whatsoever, and just like changed into a random NPC that was a sister of another character one day. And I'm like, we're gonna go with it. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean
Absolutely.
that's the whole play to find out thing, which Apocalypse World pushes, which is just, it's great. It's probably some of the most fun, especially as for DMs, at least my style of DMing, because like getting to find out stuff as we go means I get to be entertained too. But while I'm okay with big backstories, I'm lazy. I probably won't use all of it. My main rule with backstories, especially like if somebody comes to me with like a 5-10 page backstory, is as long as your backstory isn't more important than the things your character's going to do. Like, don't come to me with a character who's already had their adventure, because then why are you here?
Because I want to tell everybody else my adventure.
Yeah, exactly. Like, go write your book. It's fine. Just go write your book. And that's very different than the character who's like the retired hero, blah, blah, blah. We all know the player who's come with a backstory is like, I am already a king and I rule an entire country and I have defeated this monster and this monster. And you're just like, no, you haven't. We just started. No, you haven't.
And I think that's important too, of like when you're setting expectations for the game. If you're having it where it's like a bunch of old heroes, like for instance, it makes me think of like Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate, everyone basically were like full level 20 characters, and then they got switched to level 1 when they got a mind player put in their eye.
Yeah.
So there's ways to do that, but I think for like when you're talking about generic for like most campaigns, it's very much a growing story. So
yeah.
That I feel like is very important for when you're setting expectations for that kind of thing. But we might have. I think we have time for one more question before break. I think that this is. We're gonna talk about. Do you like having your group play during a session 0? Like where they create their characters and
yeah.
then immediately go into playing.
I do not.
I like it if it's more of like a not like an actual gaming thing, more of an RP
Mm-hmm.
to like get like I don't want them to actually like open up the rule book and do a combat. But if like it devolves into like the characters talking to each other, then yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I feel like if we're gonna play session 0, put that in the description before I come, because I'm not done making this character until I've drawn this character.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot do that in the amount of time. Also, I've got like 7 more decisions to make after that because I'm barely keeping up. My brain's like, okay, I want to do this. Oh, decision, another decision, another decision, another decision. I'm not ready to play.
I don't like playing in session 0s specifically, but I do like having a like 1-on-1 or like a 2-on-1 if a character is intertwined with mine before the first session to kind of build a backstory. I have done that before, and it helped me get into the world better and get to know my character a bit better.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I'm very much like that, Nikki. I usually, like, if I am running a game, we usually don't play the first session because I'm doing one-on-ones with people to, like, develop the character. And then I use those backstories for padding out the rest of the game. And then this is just a new thing that I've been wanting to do, and I haven't run another big campaign yet, but having almost like a 0.5 session, if that makes sense, of where you can have it where it's where the group meets, or you could have 2.5 sessions where you have, like, if you split the group in half or into certain chunks. So they know someone in the crew of how they met and how they started, can be a really fun way to, like, get people to figure out the character, if there's any tweaks that they want to make before diving into the story fully. But I feel like there's a lot of pluses and minuses to everything, and I don't think there's like really a wrong way to do it, as long as like there's agreed upon expectations and getting excited to get into the game. But we're actually going to be going on break pretty soon, but coming up after the break, we're going to talk about player world building in session 0, homebrew content, and session 0 for streamed games. After that, we're going to be getting into Reddit RPG horror stories. So stick around for that. We'll be chatting more on the struggle bus. It's not quite time to get off yet, so we'll see you guys in 10 minutes.
Last week was a really good cliffhanger. Do we just want to do Disney trivia? Because this ain't happening.
How dare you? No, I want to play the game. I want to play the game.
We are here. We got this. Let's go.
You're a time-traveling corpse?
Apparently.
That is awesome.
Now this one wasn't me.
It's not our fault.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
She is so excited and is bouncing so much. Like, there's so much excited bouncing.
Obviously, everyone's into anarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot be.
He's so cool.
My world is crumbling around me.
Nice to meet you and explode with you.
I suppose that is nice, yes.
Might have better.
Fuck you.
I knew we weren't gonna get off scot-free from murdering someone.
Yeah.
tell me I'm wrong. Step 2, you say you wanna see it all the way through. Step 3, you bring it out to my knees. Step 4, you say you're walking out the door. You can't take it anymore. But where you gonna go tonight? Why don't you wanna wait it out? I don't know what you're running from. All you wanna do is fight. Why don't you wanna make it right? You don't know what you're running from. I tear my seams apart for you. You sell me every little lie is true. Oh yeah. But I listen to the heartbeat on the floor. I feel loud every breath just like before. You can't take it anymore. Where you gonna go tonight? Why don't you wanna wait it out? I don't know what you're running from. All you wanna do is fight. Why don't you wanna make it right? You don't know what you're running from. We don't know what we're running from. I miss when we were teenage girls in our tomboy t-shirts. When life was good and the worn out sneakers. When we were fine about the complications. Those were the days in the tomboy t-shirts.
The information superhighway. Newcom, nice of you to join us.
When average teenager Arthur Padrone finds out he's the reincarnation of King Arthur of Camelot, he, Merlin, and Lancelot go on a road trip to find the other Knights of the Round Table before danger catches up to them in this comedy fiction podcast. Listen to Friday Night Fights wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm not ready for darkness. I'm not ready for darkness. I know we can do better. I'm not ready for darkness. If we promise to hold on and to never let go. I'm not ready for darkness. I'm not ready for darkness.
everybody, and welcome back to the Struggle Bus. Today we are talking about Session 0 and discussing as a bunch of GMs and players all the important information to hopefully help you out in your games to come. So we talked about like preparing for it, getting into it, general information, character backstories. Let's dive into like the world building. So Bobby, you were talking about how you have a list of questions that
Yes.
players can you tell us about that list.
Yeah. So the list is broken down. I'm not going to read the whole list or anything, but there's world questions, which is like, oh, the players give where their hometown is. One player names the main trade route. One player names a local river, stuff like that to fill out your local map. One of the parts I really, really love is it for like a fantasy game is it lets one player decide like an assumption everyone has about elves, and one player makes an assumption everyone has about dwarves and stuff like that. And since it just goes round robin, frequently, like if someone's playing an elf, they're not the character that gets to decide this like assumption about the race. Whether or not it's true is up to the character that actually plays it. But it does a lot of that. And then my favorite is everyone names a villain. Everybody like says one monster that exists in the world, which means I then know monsters to go grab that someone's going to care about. So.
Oh yeah, that's great. I don't have a list that I do. I more so kind of base it off of players of how much like because I have some that they're like, I just want to live in the world around me. I just want to experience it as I go. And I have others that are like, hey, can I create a god pantheon? And I'm like, sure, you go for it.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Do my job for me. I'm excited.
Gods are also of the things in that questionnaire, but also I go into session 2 with having very little of the game even decided because I'm going to make it based on their choices. So it's a very different route than someone who's very prepared ahead of time.
I do too much preparation. I have a variety. I'm either very hyper fixated and I prepare like the majority of the main plots, or I go full improv and we get through it. It's one or the other, but I usually do a lot of the front end preparation. So then when we're in the thick of it and I forget about creating a boss monster fight, then I can pull something out of my ass real quick. But I guess going into it, anything I guess that involves player interaction with the world is fun. So I guess, is there any type of thing that you've created in a world that you were like super excited about, like as a player, like when you've like had like world building involvement? Is there anything that like that sticks out in your mind as what was important to you?
The one that comes to mind that I still am obsessed with and I want to put in every campaign I'm ever in forever is when we did Manatown and we did the Well of Cassandra.
Mm-hmm.
That was so cool. That was one of the coolest concepts of anything ever. And I want it. I want it in every game I ever play.
I've literally been waiting to use the Well of Cassandra again.
It's so good.
How did Manatown have so many amazing individual pieces and the game just not work?
Sometimes it just doesn't work.
I know. But the bottles.
It's so good.
I guess going on, Nikki, you were talking about how you love house rules and homebrew. How do you choose a good homebrew for your game? And I'm sure we will have an episode on this, but I mean, going into a session 0, the important things that you're going to note for your thing, like what are prime examples of things that are important when you're picking your homebrew rule or your content?
So if it's just for flavor, It's just that it's interesting and makes sense and like gets the characters entertained. So an example for that would be like there was a game that I ran for a professional game that the players went to the astral plane because they helped two Githyanki's, and the Githyanki's were like, we owe you a boon for saving us from this mind flayer, or these mind flayers. There were two of them, but you have to go to our home planet or home plane to get accepted. There's not a ton of information on the astral plane out there. Like there's a little bit, but there isn't any major cities other than like the I think it's Sigil, the city of doors. But I just invented on the spot a futuristic city that was all made of black metal and glass that was magic tech basically. So like they had elevators and they had cameras and stuff like that, but the elevator was just Tensor's floating disk going up and down, and the cameras were just scrying orbs that could be hacked into them magically. And so basically instead of Shadowrun, we were playing Astral Run. And it was just a futuristic version of it. And I also on the spot invented a way for them to astral project, because that was a major part of the Githyanki's, I believe it was. And there was the silver pools. That was one of the few descriptions they had on the Wikipedia for the astral planes. So I just decided that, hey, when you get here, you have to do a ceremony to get your silver line that connects you to your astral projection. Otherwise, you can't astral project. And it was a lot of fun. And sometimes it's just like, oh, wait, I have an idea. What if this? And then I message the players and they're like, I like it. I'm like, cool. We're going to throw this at the other people.
My holy grail house rule, and it's technically in DMG, but like I probably do it different than what's in the TMG. I use hero points. It's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And I use it for other campaigns too, because it just works out really nice, because there's usually some sort of needing to increase or decrease a die amount in almost any game you play. But I usually give out 4 a session and I let them stockpile.
Mm-hmm.
Because so like they can accumulate 30, but that I have some players that are very restrained and they keep their hero points and they save them until the boss fight. Lately though, my players have full on been using them in the best ways. I have a one of my players is a Dragonborn rogue, and he spent all of his points to intimidate a child.
I mean,
because the child was being an asshole.
Yeah.
Like full on like said that he wasn't scared of these guys because he's seen a Speak with Dead ritual. Like that, it was one of those like annoying children. So he full on went, I'm gonna spend every point I have to intimidate, because he rolled terrible on it. But it posed a really cool thing, because like when they can do like a fun character moment, or they remember something that I forgot I said that really is a creative solution, or come up with a way that a spell works that I never would have thought of. It's a really great way for me to be able to in the moment reward, or if I forget to in the moment reward it, they get it at the end of the session, to like cultivate that kind of a feel throughout the campaign. And sometimes the dice just aren't on your side, no matter what you do, and you should be really good at something, and hero's luck just comes in and helps you out. And I think it's a really fun way to do that. Does anyone else have any fun house rules they like to implement, like during their session 0?
I just had I'm sure other people have heard of this, but I had a kid in one of my sessions the other day. He was like, are we using crunchy dice? And I was like, what are crunchy dice? and he was like, it's where if you get a crit, the first hit automatically hits max, and the second hit you roll for. And I was like, yeah, let's use crunchy dice. That's fine. And I really like it. So that if you get a crit, it's not just the possibility of getting a high number. It's like you at least get over the max that you can
Yeah.
usually get, which I really like.
That is one of the most annoying things is when you crit and then you roll double ones. I like one house rule that I really enjoy is oh my god, I just had it. Why? Oh, success with a cost. Success at a cost. In D&D specifically, I would use it because it's something that is in Power of the Apocalypse games. And I really like that. But I've had people roll nat ones, and I said, you can succeed. Like, you can find the footprints. Or you can lose the track. And they're like, what's the cost if I can't find the footprints? And I'm like, or if I find the footprints, I'm like, you get to either, it takes you 4 hours, or your wagon gets stuck in the mud. It's your choice. And neither is a good option, but they don't lose the trail, which means the person won't die. And stuff like that. And then the other one I like is oh my god. Nope, it'll come back to me. It's gone forever. What was the other one?
I guess like I have a lot of D&D specific ones, but I think I like 2 of the I know a guy rule. So I'll give like a certain amount of like I know a guy tokens at the beginning of a campaign, and they can spend them on an NPC to say, hey, I know this person. So they have a bond with it and they have a relationship, and they get like when they basically, I'll give like 1 out at the beginning of the game, and when they finish a huge story arc, I'll give them more and like use it that way. I haven't been very good about it in this campaign just because these guys are freaking so much smarter than I am, and I love them to death. But like I just keep forgetting because I'm constantly blue screened by their cool decisions. But
I remember the thing now. When I reward experience points at the end of the game, we do a stars and wishes, and the stars are always for other players, and the players get extra experience points for those things. So if a player does something, and it's not necessarily like, it doesn't have to be, we do a role play and we do a combat one. So what was the coolest role play moment of the game for you that isn't yours? And it could be the NPC's moment too. And what was your favorite combat moment? So we've had players say, my favorite moment was that you cast sleep on the 2 Fae to put them to sleep so that we could get away. Or my favorite moment was when you when you talk to the statue. Or my favorite moment was when you sent memes the entire time during that conversation that was supposed to be super serious, and we were all dying laughing. And then I would get extra experience points, which help encourage especially newer players to RP.
I like doing it too at like the end of a campaign, where like everyone has to say something good about everybody. Like, because sometimes I've had it where like it can be weaponized, but I think when you have it, everyone saying about everyone a good thing that they did, that has been a good thing so far that I've had. I've had it in like one game, but I like that extra XP for doing cool shit. That's fantastic. Moss, you were saying how it really helps you to get into character, to draw it. Is there a character that like that sticks out in your mind of like one of your favorite characters that you've played that you've drawn, like that kind of a, because you draw amazing characters. Like I have no favorites because they're all freaking amazing, and I'm not going to choose because they're all great. But I mean, like, of the characters, like, what are your favorites or aspects?
Oh, the ones that I've actually gotten to play, because like a couple of them I'll draw them and then it doesn't get past like a session 0 or something. Like I have a character that's gone through a couple name changes because I will use this name for other characters, named Havoc. That's been a bard, been a cleric. If it's a bard, it's with an acolyte background. If it's a cleric, it's with an entertainer background. Um, and they're a pink tiefling that dances and stuff. And I kind of want them to be a trickster, like ascend as a trickster god at some point. Because when they're a cleric, they're a trickster cleric. But and then Lore was my monster of the week character that ended up
Lore's fun.
Lore was kind of like a testing ground for how I ended up dressing, to be honest. The lore kind of changed with me, and kind of how I was like, sometimes your lines change. Sometimes you go into a game with phobias, and then you're just like 6 months down the line, they're like, oh, I was afraid of this. That's wild. I don't know if I answered the question. I got
No, you did absolutely. I love hearing about other characters and things like that because I'm an art nerd too. I'm a character nerd. I'm always like the way I define my characters. I usually find a Pinterest photo, and that's like
See,
how I base things off.
That's
of.
so because I will always design a makeup look and like a closet. Like I give them some fashion ideas, and that's how I do it.
Now, I will say for the characters that I've played on this channel, it has been like I find an outfit and then I draw the character based on that outfit. That's how Mercury came about.
That's awesome.
Because then I know I have the clothes
Mm.
to wear. But then I made Mercury's outfit extremely uncomfortable. It's just,
But it looks
it's just
so good.
bikinis and jackets that are a little uncomfy. A little uncomfy if I'm being
Yeah,
real.
but it's so good. And it's not like the fashion sense is incredible, but it's like to
thank you.
add it to like make that a part of like your magic. Chef's kiss.
This is too much praise. Please stop.
.exe is broken.
I wanted to be a fashion designer for many years.
Fuck off, you would kill.
So here's the thing. So basically when I was a little kid, like I was like, was this like 3rd grade or something? I drew something for the first time. And my friends in school were like, no, this is really good. This is okay. But so I asked my dad, I was like, Dad, what job? What career can I do? And he was like, you could be a fashion designer. That was the only one. It was a fashion designer. Later he was like, you could do art for textbooks. And I said, no.
It's too late.
Sounds absolutely awful. I do not want to draw organs for a living. Not unless I'm making them purposefully grotesque. But so I did that for a really long time, and then like junior year I sewed my prom dress and had a lot of meltdowns. Did not like the way I reacted. And so I was like, maybe character art, and then it was kind of like too late to like to switch career paths, and also home was bad. But you know, I was like, Project Runway was on, you know. At some point I wanted the Saturn sky. But like as I learned more about the industry, I was just kind of like, I feel like this isn't, I don't want to be in that. I don't want to be dealing with trends. I just want to make the clothes that I want to wear. I just want to draw this thing and then be able to wear it. I don't care what the rest of you are doing. I just want to wear this thing right now.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I went on to like.
You're fine.
We're talking about fashion.
It's great. I mean, actually, that kind of leads me into my next thing that I was going to ask. So
yay.
we're in session 0, and Ashton, like, your cosplays for your characters are amazing. So I guess
Ooh,
like
thank
what do
you.
you like when you're creating a character and like coming up with like your cosplay? Like how do you put that together in your process?
I mean, with Wednesday, I think it was a lot. It was an easy one. One thing I always try to do is I find like one piece that will always be on that character. For Wednesday, like in the beginning, it was like a gray ribbon that I had. And so I put it in my hair in a different way. In like the first, I think it was like the entire first season, I had a gray ribbon in my hair. And like for Eva, it was just like a neck scarf. But like that really helped with like the fashion style, because whatever I wore, it would have to match that piece. And then of course, as Wednesday evolved, like her clothing evolved and her makeup evolved, to like being brighter, and then more minimalistic, and then just like messier. So I mean, like once I find kind of one outfit or one thing that I'm like, this is what that character wears, then I can kind of like pick and choose things that match that. And then like as for like makeup wise, I mean, I'll usually like I usually do have like a color palette for all the characters. That again changed because Wednesday's original color palette was like black, purple, and pink and blue, and that like moved into like blue and red towards the end. It just like it. I don't know. You gotta feel it, you know.
No, that's great. That honestly that gives a lot of information into the process of like coming up with the color palette, coming up with like a staple clothing item. Like that is fantastic.
Yeah, Karen had that. She had the necklace.
Yes.
I would always wear the same exact necklace every session until she got it taken away in character, and then I stopped wearing it.
So I guess this leads me into my last question. We've talked about session 0, and they're very important in your everyday game. But what's different when you run a session 0 for a stream game? Or when you go into a stream game as a player for a session 0?
I mean, it literally is pre-production at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit more serious and a lot more specific on scheduling and more specific on lines and veils and the rules and conduct and stuff like that. Because if you have players who are late, it's going to cause issues. If you have players who don't show up, it's going to cause issues. If you have players who have bad equipment, it's going to cause issues. Like those are all things you have to be concerned about. Or if you're just playing for fun, if someone just can't show up every week, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's annoying, but it's fine.
And a lot of the time, session 0 isn't actually streamed, which is nice. Because then, like you get to like find the foundation of the characters in the story, like without the pressure of it being recorded on there forever. Like if you want to change something and it like doesn't match the next week, then that's totally chill. So yeah.
Definitely. And I think too, like some streams do character art, other ones do like Hero Forge. There's, I feel like a lot more prep that goes into it, and like just pulling back the curtain moment here. But I think it's also like they're two very similar, but they have different things. But core tenets are always the same.
Yeah.
Of establishing your expectations, your rules for the table, creating characters, setting your lines and veils up, and going into it having a good time. There's more specifics on that, but we've gone over that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the one big difference to Wrap and Ram is if you have like a weekly game, your session 0 will be like 1 week and then session 1 will be the next week. Frequently when we're dealing with shows, we session 0 like 3 months before we're gonna play. Because of the character art and all of that stuff. So there will also frequently be kind of like a session 0-2 right beforehand where we're like, hey, everybody, refamiliarize yourself with everything that we did 3 months ago because you're about to actually play these characters, which I think is very different than a normal session 0.
Also, I think it's important that like this is something that we do a lot as streamers, but I think it's important to implement also into home games is like, so one thing that we do is like, so some shows have seasons, we have seasons, we check in at the end of every season and do basically another session 0. And that can be important to reaffirm like what's going on, what you want out of your characters, and any changes that need to be made. It's something you can use in your home game as well to like after a big story arc has happened to do a player check-in as a group. Like, how are we feeling? What do we want to see more of?
Yeah, it's kind of like
we do it a lot for like pre-production, but
yeah,
there's ways to do it at home too.
I was gonna say it's kind of like just a supercharged version of Stars and Wishes, realistically. You're just making almost a whole session out of doing it for the entire last season of sessions.
Yeah, we do that in my Vampire the Masquerade game. After every arc or chronicle, we end up having an 8 at the last session is an 8-man where all of us are playing together. Usually it's 4-4 or 5-4 because there's 2 DMs. But then between that and the next game, we'll have time with the DMs and we'll privately discuss what we want to do over the time skips that we're doing and how our characters want to change and what we want to see in the next arc and stuff like that. So like my character currently is finally learning how to defend herself because she got in this huge fight and almost died. And she's like, no, I need to be able to defend myself. I can't rely on others for that. And now she's finally learning strength-based skills for the first time ever.
I mean, I think those check-ins are really how you get bigger character growth too, when you get to look back and reflect on everything. Because like if we didn't do those check-ins for Weird Web for those 5 seasons, I'm not sure how things would have actually worked with like taking such big character arcs and stuff. Because we needed multiple people on board with storylines and stuff that people wanted to do by the time we were in the late seasons.
We had like multiple session 0s in between seasons. Like, I think there was one time I think we did like 3 weeks in a row of just not streaming. We just like met and talked.
That was before we did the everyone's backstories. Like we did a huge event thing.
Yeah, I like that because like there was a season where I felt like Karen wasn't going the right path and like I was not liking playing her as much. And then we discussed how we could adjust Karen and that she was important and like reassured and had a discussion in the session 0s and also privately, which helped reassure that it could go the way that I still wanted it to go, that I would still have fun, but everybody else would still have fun.
Absolutely. So now that we've we've discussed our session 0, what it pertains to, all of the information, we're going to move on to the little fun bit. Not that the other stuff wasn't fun, but this is going to be reading some TTRPG horror stories and deciding, could a session 0, and some of these stories they did a session 0, but doing a session 0 of how we described, could it have helped the situation out, or was it just a fail?
I am so prepared for this. I've been reading so many not the ass conversations.
It's all about Kermit Mustard Gonzo. Every single one. List him by name.
You didn't find that Reddit post, right? I mean, I only made like 2, but like.
All right. So, let us see. I have them picked out, but which one do you start with? Yeah, we're gonna start with this one. How character's family disappeared is the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this sounds like something
backstory?
I'd do. So,
I was about to be like, did one of us write this about Bobby?
right? Am I being? Did you just?
Uh,
Mary's just pulling up the Reddit post she has made about me. That's what's happening.
I actually don't have a Reddit account, but if I did, no. So, this is how my character's family disappeared. I'll omit a few details on purpose, just so people involved won't understand that it's them. So, our DM was running a homebrew campaign for us, 5 players. When I was creating a character's backstory, I asked him how detailed it should be. The answer was something along the lines of, whatever you're comfortable with. I made a human fighter, basic, I know, and went with full hero background. I intentionally didn't want to make an overly complex backstory, just specified that my character has a family. No details at that point. An event that made him into an adventurer, and a motivation to travel and do things. For a good chunk of the campaign, it went well. But several events happened that made the campaign much, much, much worse for me, and I'll tell you about one of them. In the campaign, we were trying to stop a war from happening with varying degrees of success. We were essentially failing our way forward, LOL. At some point, the country got invaded due to our successful diplomatic efforts, and successful was in quotation marks, and a part of our country is occupied. Several players bring up their characters' families, making sure that they're fine and unhurt. Seeing that the village my character is from was situated in the occupied territory, I thought that it would be cool to do something with that. At least my character should be concerned about them. I didn't even have names for them at this point. I just approached the GM after the session and asked if it's possible to add my character's family to the campaign when it's appropriate. The answer was, and I quote here, "Oh, your character has a family? Oh yeah, they're dead now." It was said in a serious tone and not in jest or something like that. I should have probably handled that better. I just nodded and said, "I see." I was really upset about it, if I'm being honest. This and several other things that came up made me just lose interest in the campaign entirely. I just zoned
Yeah, I
out when it
bet.
came to the plot and didn't even know what was going on. Just a bonk dispenser. So whoever's reading it, please don't be like me and communicate with your GM.
100% would have been fixed with the sessions here.
Yeah.
Or with communication, period.
Or just with a better DM. But
Yeah, because what? Your parents, they have a family? Not anymore. Who's-
yeah.
You're muted, Bobby.
You're still muted, Bobby.
I am fully muted, mother. God damn it. God damn it. But no, I was saying, first, the fuck. It is a problem with communicating, but it's not him communicating, it's the GM.
No, yeah, the GM needed to communicate.
Yeah, and this is where I would say, like, would a session 0 help? No, because it would be a session 0 run by this GM.
Yeah. Exactly. No, you're
No,
you're
like, because
right.
the thing is like, he doesn't give a shit about the characters and the character's backstory, which means any session 0 he's going to run is going to suck when it comes to figuring this stuff out, because the player was trying to get this stuff. And at first when I was like, oh, and I wrote my backstory, I'm like, oh, did a ton. He gave him a loose framework, like it was kind of the perfect middle ground of information to give. Like, if he came with that much information to session 0, I wouldn't even count that as him having his character made already.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's totally workable. And if the response is like, oh, yeah, then they're dead now. It's, no, he's just giving you the middle finger. Like, that's all that is. Also, he may be 12.
Yeah.
He may be an aspiring prison cop.
There were replies that asked, did he do this to everybody else? And the one guy's like, no, other people had families that were included. He just killed mine. This definitely seems like an asshole GM.
Yeah.
Stamp of approval.
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
This is a new game now. It's just session 0 or asshole DM. One of them.
No, there is also potential. It's a rock paper scissors situation because there is also toxic player.
Oh, that's so true.
We
Yeah.
have one of those coming up as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
where there's ones like no session 0 is gonna fix this person.
That's fair. Yeah.
I had to run a game for one of them about 2 weeks ago. It
I
made
fucking
me
get it. You hated Kermit Mustard.
No.
No.
No, it's
This was
No,
I've
longer
heard
than
this
2
story.
weeks
This
ago.
was worse than Kermit Mustard Got.
yeah. No, this was like it made me go, do I still actually want a GM if these are the kind of people I have to run games for?
Damn.
Oh, Bobby, you gotta drop that post on Reddit.
I might actually.
I know of like 3 people that I felt that way towards, and it was all
When we get our own horror stories, I have other horror stories, but this one's
Our next story is titled "What to Do About Player Targeting."
What does that mean?
there's many ways that could go.
But
Alright,
usually I would
so-
assume it's like picking on a player and targeting them for like attacks and stuff. Sorry, continue.
No, you're fine. My brain's moving like 50 miles an hour. It's a problem. But what can I do as a player to help my friend, also a player in this game, where the DM is very blatantly targeting their character for playing specific class or subclasses?
Find a new
So-
game.
So my friend introduced me into the C&D group about a year ago, and I've gotten on with most of the group members pretty well, and we are on our 3rd campaign together. And the GM is taken to trying some new things like a rivalry system and running the Eberron system. In this campaign, session 0, we all created characters as you do. But when my friend chose to play a human bard, he kind of got told off by the GM, who didn't tell him not to do so, but he said he didn't like running games with bards in them, to which my friend said something jokingly along the lines of, "Haha, just don't target me." After a few sessions and a character loss already, we leveled up to the point for my friend to choose a subclass, and he chose the College of Glamour, I believe. And this was the session that the GM said he's going to target my friend. A few sessions have gone by, and there have been multiple PCs and DM PCs that have full-on died, but have had some sort of stupid plot armor bullshit to instantly revive or reanimate them. But when my friend in a dungeon left into a different room to try and avoid a TPK, the DM described something that can only be seen as targeting. As he entered the room on his own, the walls started to become thick with moss, and these creatures that come in swarms started to manifest from the walls. By the way, when they died, they exploded into a petrifying mist.
Of course they did.
Yeah, you know. But after his turn, my turn went, and I ran past all of the manifesting enemies and was closer to them. The ones that had just spawned got to have their turn next, and 3 of them swarmed the bard. The other 3 stayed to kill the NPCs in the room. But the 3 that attacked him had advantage and 2 attacks each. Mind you, the ones we've encountered before didn't have 2 attacks, and future ones don't utilize the 2 attacks. And as he was a 4th level bard, of course he goes down and takes 2 auto fails, because the 3rd one attacked him again, and then they proceeded to devour his body, so there was nothing left to use for resurrection.
Jesus.
Also,
Later that session, my own player home, which had just under 5,000 platinum inside, which I got as a part of the first 5 sessions, was burned to the ground by my rival's mercenary group. And there was nothing we could do because our rivals were level 7+. I'm butthurt about the platinum, but also anything we could have used to resurrect my friend was lost in that fire in the cave. Let me know if I'm just looking through rose-colored glasses, and if I'm not, what should I do?
So there's
No,
actually
that DM's an asshole.
there's a very interesting tell in there too. That this
was it when he
DM
said, "I'm going to target your character"?
no more that this DM is he might have started on this character, which before we got into the Slayer stuff, I was gonna be like, oh, they tried to discuss miscommunication. Also, the guy's an asshole either way. But my house that had 50,000 platinum, I got in the first 5 sessions. The DM is literally just building them up to tear them down and hurt them. That is all the DM's doing. That is the DM's MO for this game.
Oh my
That is
God.
how they're having
It was love
fun.
bombing.
Yeah. This is someone new to D&D,
twisted.
fairly new to D&D, it seems like. New enough to not be suspicious. You have 50,000 platinum. In your first 5 sessions, you're level 4.
To be fair, it was 5,000.
Oh, sorry.
Still.
Either way, 5,000 platinum
That's 50,000
is
gold.
50,000 gold. Like, no, this DM is
That's enough for a
specifically
true
setting people
resurrection.
up to hurt them emotionally. This is someone who is gearing up to abuse people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Session 0 isn't going to fix that.
Yeah, Session 0 can fix that because, again, it's still run by him. And the thing is it was brought up and discussed. He was like, oh, yeah, I don't like people playing that, but didn't tell him not to or that there are any repercussions. The questions that would have happened in a Session 0 happened. The person is just shit.
That's also, I just don't, I don't understand, like, DMs who are like, I'm going to target you because you're playing correctly, but you're doing something, like, you're just going to be a bard and I don't like bards.
Oh,
That's insane.
I
to me.
despise I hate anyone that plays this class. I hate anyone that plays this race. Work around it. Or just be like, in
Just
my
don't put that
homebrew
race-
world,
let it-
this race doesn't exist. You could be, you could do it openly. Like, don't have people play it then. But A, don't use pre-made settings that have those races if you really hate it and those classes. And B, why? Why? If it's that you can't DM around them, learn to be better.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird. Listen, I have what's the class from Crit Roll?
Blood Hunter.
Yeah, Blood Hunter.
Yes. Blood Hunter. Like one of my players messaged me before we started the campaign. They were like, "Hey, are you okay with me being a Blood Hunter?" And I have absolutely no idea how Blood Hunters work. I don't know anything about them. I've never played one. I've never played in a campaign with one. I've never seen Crit Roll. And I was like, yeah, fuck it, go for it. You know, like, and so like he'll just do things sometimes, and I'm like, I didn't know you could do that. That's fine. And it's like, it's fun. Why did I don't get it. I don't get it when people are like, don't fucking play this class.
I mean,
that's dumb, and just have a good time.
There's also the limit of like homebrew stuff and everything like that, but that's a different level of maliciousness, that there's players that will bring things that are knowingly built to break the game to make everyone else have less fun. We're not talking about that. We're talking about like even the Critical Role, like that might not be Wizards, but it's basically considered D&D and definitely adjacent enough to be trusted. But this was a bard. This is like players' hand.
Yeah,
this is the core to the game.
I mean, I don't like some of the rules of certain things, like Warforged, for example. I don't like that Warforged don't sleep. I really don't. It irritates me beyond no end. So I say in my Session 0, if someone wants to play Warforged, you can do that. I did make a homebrew tweak, which is a fair tweak. It's just they have to be shut down for 4 hours every night. So the same thing like an elf does.
What
You
if
can't be
they
awake
charged in the sun instead of sleeping?
But
I mean,
it'll
that's
still be like a 4-hour resting period.
Yeah, they just need to shut down for 4 hours to recharge their batteries. Like, because I don't like the fact that Warforged can just be awake 24/7. So you constantly have someone on watch, where I like having the watches set up and like having people needing to do those. It ruins that fun for me personally.
Yeah. Which that's also at least
And-
being honest about it, because most people who hate something is this, because every class and every race and everything has something that changes the rule just for them. So like Warforged do completely negate shifts and watch. But at least you're honest where you're like, I don't like them because of this one rule that removes this part of the game I enjoy, so I will tweak it. Versus if you play a Warforged, I'm going to fucking kill you.
I think I've only targeted a character once, and it was purely because they kept metagaming and power gaming.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally just got annoyed because they're like, nothing can hit me. And I'm like, fucking bet. That's the one time I targeted a character, and then I rolled a nat 20, and it was the only way I could hit him with it. I was like, ah, bitch.
Yeah, the big majority of the replies, a lot of people were trying to be civil and say, talk to your GM. This is weird. Just one, this is weird. You're not seeing through rose-colored glasses. Simply hating a class just to hate a class is strange. It's fucking strange.
There are people.
And then
that...
targeting, fucked.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite response though. The DM is directly and repeatedly targeting your friend for playing a class that the DM reportedly dislikes for what are very likely bigoted and definitely bullshit reasons. Kick this DM. Tell him to eat shit. Fuck off and die. Find a better DM. Just don't play with the turd again.
Yeah.
What they said.
Pretty much, yeah. That.
Yeah, there's no fixing that.
Classic Reddit.
Oh, we're that's a future episode. Never mind. I was like, I have a story, but let's say.
All right. Next up we have accidentally bullied one of our PCs out of our group.
Ooh.
Okay.
Oh, I feel like I'm gonna be sad.
This is gonna get awkward.
Names changed to protect the guilty and all that. Yes, this is a brand new account because I don't want to make anyone involved feel worse about what went down. We met up through an online fan group. Someone mentioned wanting to get a group together and run a game in that setting. So planning and chats happen. Everything sounds good. We meet up at our friendly local game store to have a session 0. Everything feels good. There seems like a few different styles of play, but we're excited about it, and the DM seems cool. A few weeks in, everyone is happy, and the DM is hitting his stride, getting everyone a chance to have fun and engage in RP. To engage in RP and combat and make sure we all have a chance to shine. Things are good. But one player, we'll call him Jerry, is notably less interested in RP and more into combat maximization. Fine, he's having fun, and it makes fights tough since the rest of us aren't really focused on that aspect. We moved to online because COVID. One player drops because he doesn't like online play. Jerry brings in a friend who's a good fit, playing both RP and mechanics well. Everything's cool, and slowly we get things complete. We get things complete on the first big story arc. Sorry, there's so many grammatical errors. It's boggling my brain. The party splits up to do some personal quests, essentially a few games of side quests where each PC focuses on something related to backstory, and the rest of us treat it like a one-shot with new PCs. This is a cool way to wrap up a bunch of stuff for our personal stories, and then lets us back together with new vigor to play out the next arc. We've also now hit level 8. The group gets back together, we have a few scenes with the party meeting back up after a few months. Everyone's happy and cool. That's when Jerry drops a bomb. His PC is leaving to go be a teacher. Not the player, his PC. Because he wasn't able to before, but his personal quest resolved that conflict somehow. I don't actually see how that happened, but whatever. We all express concern, and the DM has to call for a break since he had no idea this was coming. We get back after a short break, and Jerry's PC is gone. and we all just shrug and get on with our next story arc. We are then joined by Jerry's new PC, who is essentially the exact same build as the old PC, but a different class in order to maximize damage output, who was sent by his god to replace the old player character because something. All the people really into RP are upset by this, and the DM is not happy at all having this sprung on him without warning or discussion. Session ends, we all chat afterwards as normal, everything is fine. Over the following weeks, we share session wrap-ups with our PC's perspective. 4 of 6 players are all explicitly upset that their friend left, and they don't really trust this new guy, but we make it clear it's RP, not players that are angry, even if we are a little bit annoyed by the situation. Jerry blows up at us, saying we're being passive-aggressive at him for being done with a character arc and retiring his PC. He then leaves the Discord server and blocks us all. His friend does the same. We're all left stunned because we thought we had a good group vibe and Jerry would be cool with the direction we were playing our characters in. Having a little in-party friction had literally never been an issue before, and Jerry had always been one of the people who enjoyed it. Anyway, it's a couple years later, we're all still playing with a couple new players and working through an epic arc to lock away ancient evils and save the peasants from an undead plague. So.
I
feel like I'm
I don't- I
missing
don't
information.
I don't think the title is correct.
Mm-mm.
You did not accidentally bully someone. You
Express concern and
not even that. They didn't even express concern. They were chill with it. They were like more chill than they should have been with that.
This nothing about this makes sense to me. I feel like there's missing information that is being left out to make one party look better.
Yeah.
Because they're saying, well, we accidentally bullied this person and got, but they're not saying what they did to accidentally bully this person, which is giving we left out information to me. Or it's, it's things went exactly as they said, then why did you think you were bullying them?
Yeah, that's
why is it worded that way based on what this is? Where did you get this from?
my only thought is maybe their logic is the bullying was their characters saying, like being upset because of it and bringing that up, and the person mistook that as bullying.
Yeah, I mean,
Because I don't know you is not bullying.
Yeah, but I could see like that person then
You're
being
not
like,
my mom is
that
not
person
bullying.
saying you're bullying me, and then like, you know what I mean?
Mhm. I think there's just a bunch of info missing of what actually
I feel like this is a situation where there's both sides were probably a little wrong here.
Probably. But we don't know because
Yeah.
How that I'm
Please tell me we're gonna go to the comments and they'd be like, no, this is what actually happened.
I really wish. The story was only out for 8 days, so like we might revisit it if there's any updates. But
God, I hope so.
Yeah, you gotta keep an
from
eye
what
on it.
Absolutely, this is juicy. But from what I've read and just knowing of Reddit stories, this seems like a very unreliable narrator story. In the comments, someone posted, "I've never had a DM in 3 decades who would allow that sort of replacement character. It seems like all he wanted was a combat pit with minimal RP, while the rest seems RP focused. He just wasn't a good fit for the rest of the group." And then OP responded, "He did do some RP, but that wasn't his focus. The DM, in trying to keep the game moving, let him introduce the new PC, but did express his unhappiness with how the player handled it. Which honestly is kind of the best you can do when a player takes a hard left with no warning. Break, discuss with the players what's going on and how to resolve it, and just keep going." I'm pretty sure the DM didn't realize just how much of a clone the new character would be because of the speed of it all required to get things worked out and back into play. But yeah, he wasn't a good fit for our table. Another one said, to me, the horror story is Jerry's friend who was a good fit, also abruptly dropping from the group.
Mhm.
OP replied, losing him did hurt for sure.
Yeah, that could have been like a. Well, I can't stay, unfortunately.
Yeah, I
'Cause
mean,
I have to choose my friend. Like, I'm even if they're like in the wrong, if I joined a game because I wanted to play with my friend and then my friend left the game, I wouldn't necessarily want to keep playing if I don't know everybody else.
yeah.
It depends on how long I've been playing, though.
Mhm.
Yeah. Also,
But
that
we'll
seems like the
definitely keep
kind
an
of
eye.
person that if you stayed, your friend's gonna never shut up about it.
It's like, remember that game that you kept saying?
Yeah, no. I
Jerry
think
would not be cool with that.
the combo that this was the only character that cared about combat and like didn't just care about combat, was changing his class to better optimize, which means he's looking up builds, which will be a whole separate discussion I have many words on. But yeah, if the rest of the group's an RP group, this was not going to work. And I do get that the OP's been like, no, he role plays. Yeah, I've had it. I've had the characters that like will do a little bit of role play, but at the end of the day, what they're trying to have fun doing only works if other people are trying to do it as well. And it just does not meet cohesively.
Yep.
Our last story of the night is titled, Aren't You a Rogue? Yeah, but I'm also lawful good.
Interesting choice.
So it starts off, hey, this comes from a Curse of Strahd adventure that fell apart a year or two ago. It only lasted a few sessions, so the only thing that mattered was that I was playing a noble soul knife rogue that was also lawful good. Good, upstanding noble who wanted the best for the common folk and tried their hardest to do just that for them. We started
so,
out.
Robin Hood?
I was about to say Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Basically Robin Hood. We started out as usual with the investigation and found out we are now in Barovia. We then go to a few houses, knocking on doors and collecting our bearings. We had a few problems of the barbarian and the fighter wanting to yoink everything that wasn't nailed down. At first, my character had many problems with this, as we didn't know if this house was lived in, and the owners were gone. But after a very long conversation, I realized we weren't getting nowhere and did what was best for the party and just let it go, since they were just using circular logic like, we don't know if anyone doesn't live here, and we've made so much noise someone would have investigated, as if people don't leave their house and lock it down before something.
Very
doing
barbarian
something.
argument, I must
Uh-huh.
say.
It is.
On top of that, after we realized the house was inhabited by just zombies or constructs, my character began to stop lockpicking doors and instead choosing to this grammar. The house, after finding out the house was inhabited by just zombies or constructs, my character began to stop lockpicking doors, instead choosing to use a portable ram. A problem to both of them, even though, okay, I think there's so much grammar wrong here. From it said, he wanted to lockpick doors. The
Mhm.
barbarian and the fighter used a portable ram and began kicking them down as he was lockpicking them. Because they thought I was going too slow, despite the DM saying I lockpicked every door in under 6 seconds. The worst part comes to where we meet the father or the cleric in the beginning of Curse of Strahd. He apparently has some important relic, and immediately the fighter asks me to steal it. In which part my character quickly says no, and this is where the fighter blows up. Fighter, you're a rogue. The rogue. Yeah, I am. Fighter, you steal shit. Rogue, I mean, I'm good at it, but... So steal the statue. I'm not stealing from an innocent man. As far as we know, it's not stolen either. You're a rogue. What good do you do if you don't steal it? And the other guy says, I'm lawful good. I'm not stealing anything from people that don't deserve it. We enter a long debate about how just because I'm a rogue, I should just steal everything. I should just steal everything I see, despite me never portraying any sort of quality like that. It gets to the point where both the fighter and the barbarian push me over and take the item as the father yells at them. Then they both trip over the horrible quality of the church. I pick up the statue and give it back to the father, where both the fighter and the barbarian try to convince him that I was the one who told them to steal it. It, of course, goes horribly wrong, since I was the only one who advocated against such an idea. This is where I checked out for the session, since I just didn't want to babysit some murder hobos who felt the world revolved around them. But as the session went on, we find that the vampire spawn that screams out for father was there, and both the fighter and barbarian thought that the cleric was a pedophile and kept intimidating and saying they would kill him. I just said that father is a common term for a religious leader, and they waved me off and continued to harass the priest character. Session ended there. Fighter said he had to leave due to burnout, and the barbarian followed him. The DM was happy they left, but wanted a break from the bullshit they pulled. Very difficult reading. There were so many errors in there. I even tried to edit it, but still. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm almost positive this is like a 15-year-old. Just from so many flags. Definitely one of those, like, in theory, a session 0 would have helped. But the barbarian and the fighter would have probably agreed to everything and still done this. Because they see D&D as an asshole simulator.
Yeah.
Like, I know those players. And they'll agree to everything and then be dicks because it's not real and use it as a way to be assholes. This is a toxic player problem.
Mm-hmm.
With the GM being like, I'm glad they're gone too. We don't know. I don't think we got how many other players there are at the table.
5 total players.
Yeah, so it was
So
the GM, 3 players, and then those 2. So yeah, if the GM wasn't okay with running a 3-person game, it could have also been like, we need these people. We don't know the full context of how the group gathered, but it definitely feels like if they knew who these 2 were, they would not have been like welcome. But I do think they would have hit it during session 0.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically, if they weren't jerks, that the session 0 might have helped, but they were assholes in this.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
I could have a whole entire 2-hour rant, honestly, about just players telling other players how to play.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say one thing. In one game I was playing, there was a player who's played kind of, and I've been playing for 20 plus years. Tabletop games in general, not D&D specifically. But he had been playing for like 2-ish years, and his girlfriend was playing brand new, and she was playing a barbarian. And she would do things that normal barbarians would do without thinking of consequences of her actions.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, babe, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. You have to go do this because I'm about to throw a fireball. And he was playing a warlock. And I'm like, no, fuck you. Or not a fireball, but whatever. I was like, fuck you. She already said she's going to do this. Let her do what she wants to do. She can learn through her actions. Let her play her character and make decisions on her own. And I was the only person who would actually be like, shut the fuck up. Let your girlfriend play her goddamn character. I will punch you in the face. I'm not violent, but I will punch you or throw something. I'll get
Throw
Greg
a plate at him.
I'll get somebody else to punch you.
I'm not going to lie. When I heard the I'm lawful good, I totally thought they were going to be the problem.
Yeah,
but, because 9 times out of 10, especially once we get to the alignment thing. But no, You're so awful. I'm rooting for the person whose entire argument is, I can't do that. I'm lawful good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It
I
was
mean,
not on the bingo card.
Never mind. I was gonna say something that would just lead into alignments, but that's another week. That's another week.
Well, I mean, if we want to, maybe next week we could talk alignments. Possibly. We'll see. But I'm afraid that's all we have time for tonight. We do need to get off the bus eventually and get back to our normal lives.
But I like
Join
the
us.
There's cupcakes.
I know, right? But like next week, we can get back on the bus for a little while and talk about other fun TTRPG events. But this Friday, come back here and check out Sigil and Shadow, our fun, supernatural, whimsical horror game. It is at 9 p.m. EST. Back here at 2000 Tales, and you can always check us out next week for the second episode of Struggle Bus. But I'm Mary. My crew here is wonderful, but we have to get off the Struggle Bus, and I guess that means you guys do too. We will talk to you later. Good luck out there.
Yep. All right. Yeah,
Keep
we're
struggling.
It is.
I like to think that the struggle bus is just a beat down bus in
Yeah.
like a woods that we go and just smoke in.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking when I drew it.
I mean, that's yeah.
We can even do where, like, you know how like they have the windows. If we wanted to do a promo picture, like with our faces in it, we could have each of our.
All of us.
This
looking out
sounds
the
like
window.
Ashton level Photoshop.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
It
Oh
could
my
look
God,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
Actually, here's the thing though. I don't have. I don't think I don't. I know I don't have any pictures of Moss that I can use in Photoshop. I
Okay.
definitely have Mary pictures. I have Bobby pictures, and I think no, I have Nikki pictures. I know I have Nikki pictures. I just don't have Moss pictures.
I mean, I was just
Do
gonna put
you
our
just
headshots
like
in the
send
windows,
selfies?
but-